One evening in the Mission District of San Francisco, a red Blowfish logo was displayed outside a shop advertising food delivery services. But this shop wasn't supposed to be open because it had been shut down months ago. Suddenly, a man named Jason Teplitsky showed up. He owned the trademark to the shop's name, Blowfish Sushi, and as far as he knew, he had shut the business down for good. So why was it still open? He demanded to speak to the owner, but the staff claimed they didn't know who was in charge. Teplitsky, a big man nicknamed the Monster, wasn't interested in waiting. So he threatened to have a group of people physically block the restaurant to stop the fraud by any means necessary. The issue escalated until the police were called, forcing Teplitsky to go home. While Teplitsky was planning his next move, other horrible food delivery problems were happening elsewhere. His story was just one of the many that began when modern convenience created a system without accountability. Because once you step into the dark world of food delivery, you find more than just fake storefronts and ghost kitchens. You find companies that trick you into paying fake charges, workers who admit to eating from your orders, and million-dollar fraud schemes. But then comes the darkest story of them all. The story of a delivery driver who was pushed so hard that an innocent family was forced to pay the ultimate price.
CPR in progress.
This is the dark reality of food delivery. One day in 2023, Martin Luzania, the CEO of a grill in Long Beach, California, was shocked by what he saw when he watched his surveillance monitor. A Grubhub delivery driver had just picked up a customer's meal and walked to the parking lot. Instead of getting in his car and driving away, the driver did something unbelievable. Martin noticed the driver was untying the bag right there in the car and began to chow down on the food, taking big bites out of the customer's dinner. Martin rushed outside and asked him what he was doing, but the driver quickly lied and said he was just eating his lunch. But Martin had the camera footage.
Martin Luzania is the CEO of Mexihana's Hibachi Grill in Long Beach. He says his surveillance cameras caught this Grubhub driver pulling into his parking lot Wednesday night, picking up a delivery order, then spending the next several minutes eating from that order.
This was both gross and a massive betrayal of trust. But then Martin did something that surprised everyone. He immediately called the customer, warning them to throw the food away once they received it. He then personally remade and delivered the entire order to the customer himself, doing the job the app driver was supposed to do. And here's the really crazy part. As rare as it is to catch it on camera, this kind of stealing is happening constantly.
Well, it's convenient and hugely popular, but across the country, food delivery app customers are reporting that their drivers are taking more than just a tip.
Undercover investigations, like the one done by CBS LA, used hidden cameras to expose multiple drivers openly reaching into delivery bags and grabbing handfuls of food. A few fries here, a little bit of chicken there, right in the front seat of their car.
Bucksbaum contacted Uber about the theft, but was given several generic responses that are sent when someone is dissatisfied with their food.
In one shocking case, a driver was even seen cleaning his dirty floor mats between deliveries, using rags right before handling a customer's food. It makes you wonder, is the food you're about to eat even yours anymore? Unfortunately, the answer to that question is both disgusting and disturbing. A survey of 500 delivery drivers working for companies like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Postmates found that a staggering 1 in 4 admitted to sometimes eating a customer's food. Because these drivers are considered independent contractors and not full employees of the restaurant, state and county health departments say they don't have the authority to regulate their behavior. They don't fall under the same rules as the pizza delivery guy who works directly for the pizzeria. The delivery platforms tell restaurants to use tamper-proof seals, but if those seals are broken, the customer often blames the restaurant. This level of theft and distrust, where the food you order is literally being consumed before it gets to your door, is bad enough. But if the drivers aren't eating your order, they are sometimes doing something much worse. A California man named Saeed Devagiri confessed to a scheme where he and his partner stole over $2.5 million from DoorDash. From 2020 to 2021, Devagiri used an employee login to access DoorDash's software. The scheme was brilliant and completely heartless. He would place huge, expensive orders using fake customer accounts, then manually assign those deliveries to fake driver accounts he and his partners controlled. Then, he would prompt the fake accounts to report the deliveries as completed, even though no food had been made or delivered. Once the system registered the fake delivery, Devagiri would manipulate the computer to pay the money out to the fake driver's account. The whole process was perfected to take less than 5 minutes, and they repeated it hundreds of times before they were caught. But even if you managed to avoid the thieves eating your dinner or the fraudsters draining the company bank accounts, you still have to worry about where your food is coming from in the first place. This is where things get really crazy. In the competitive, flashy world of Las Vegas, Chef James Trees stands out. He is a James Beard Award semifinalist, an honor that makes him one of the most respected chefs in the country. He is also the owner of Esther's Kitchen. In the culinary world, his name is his brand, and he doesn't mess with it. That's why Chef Trees was so shocked when he started receiving strange texts from customers. They were telling him they loved his new delivery service on Uber Eats. The problem was, Chef Trees doesn't do delivery. He explained to reporters that his restaurant was so busy, he couldn't possibly handle takeout or delivery. But for the last couple of months, someone had been using his famous name on an app, calling themselves Esther's Italian Pasta Kitchen.
It's been really odd to see people texting me and telling me that they're ordering from me delivery service that I do not provide.
Unfortunately, Chef Trees would find out some more shocking details. He discovered that these imposters hadn't just used his name. They had screenshotted his logo and pictures of his dishes to promote their own menu. They were even charging more than his real restaurant did for the same items. And worst of all, they were offering food he didn't even sell. It was a complete fraud designed to trick his loyal customers. But as horrifying as it was to have his name stolen, what he found out next was even more shocking. Chef Trees learned that the restaurant impersonating him was also posing as at least 18 other restaurants on the delivery apps. His name was just one of many victims in a huge, coordinated identity theft ring. Think about that for a moment. You think you're ordering from a trusted local business, a prestigious, award-winning chef, but the food is actually coming from some unknown location cooked by someone you can't identify, charging you more money for a worse product.
God forbid if someone orders food from them with my name and they get sick or something happens, I'm liable.
What's wild is that this deception was happening far beyond Las Vegas. In San Francisco, after over 20 years in business, a famous spot called Blowfish Sushi had closed its doors. But when former owner Jason Teplitsky saw a listing for his restaurant pop up on the delivery apps, he was furious. An imposter had taken over the location and was using the identical name and logo to serve delivery-only sushi. A similar issue happened with San Francisco Wagyu Mafia, a fake brand that stole the name of a famous Japanese sandwich shop known for its insanely expensive $180 Wagyu sandwich. The imposter was so convincing that it even fooled a food writer. And this is the crazy bit. When you can't walk into a restaurant or check its reviews on the street, how are you supposed to know if the brand is real? The answer is, you can't. This is one of the core problems of the modern food delivery economy. It's not as tragic as the case we'll see later, but still a huge mess. It shows that the delivery industry just completely fails to verify who is selling you food. When reporters asked the big apps, DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, how they verify listings, they couldn't or wouldn't give a straight answer. Their responses were generic, claiming that they have safeguards in place, but refusing to explain what those safeguards are. The truth is, this deception is how the companies make money. It's why you can order pizza from a brand called Pasquale's and not realize you are actually ordering from Chuck E. Cheese. They invent new names to trick you into buying food you might otherwise skip.
Chuck E. Cheese is delivering pizza during the coronavirus pandemic. is operating a restaurant under a different name, and that name is Pasquale's Pizza and Wings.
But the real issue goes far beyond copying logos or tricking customers. Because if a fake restaurant can go unnoticed for months, imagine what happens when the danger comes from kitchens you never even knew were there. In 2023, ABC7 released a report that felt more like the start of a true crime story than a food investigation. They'd spent some time tracking orders from something called ghost kitchens. You might know these kitchens already. However, what the ABC7 team found in these places raised a question most people never think about when tapping that delivery button. If the name on your order is not the real kitchen making your food, then who exactly is feeding you? The investigation started with a simple list of digital restaurants scattered across the city of Chicago. More than 300 ghost kitchen names appeared on the delivery apps, each offering its own menu and branding. But when reporters cross-checked those names against Chicago's health inspection records, most of them had no trace at all. Instead, the real kitchens behind the scenes had their own inspection histories, and some of those histories were not pretty. One had 100 fruit flies throughout the building. Another had no soap at its hand-washing sink. A third had a violation over rodent droppings. Yet the ghost kitchen names attached to these places gave no hint of any of that.
I think it's really disconcerting as a consumer to find out that your food was cooked in a church basement or in a semi-industrial warehousing district that has never really seen the light of day.
Unfortunately, it gets worse because the deeper the ABC7 team dug, the stranger things looked. A ghost kitchen might appear as a healthy salad brand, but the real restaurant behind it could be a diner known for greasy food and low ratings. But here's the tricky part. The problem wasn't that every ghost kitchen was unsafe, but that the system made it impossible for people to know which ones were. This is where transparency becomes the main problem. Food safety experts like Mitzi Baum pointed out how customers had no easy way to check where their order really came from. Cities can't track ghost kitchens if the businesses don't register their digital names. Apps don't require clear disclosure, and the health department inspects the physical restaurant, not the 10 different ghost brands hiding inside. If someone gets sick, reporting the problem turns into a puzzle. You might complain about a ghost kitchen that technically doesn't exist on any city records. But here's where it gets really insane. You see, if the ghost kitchens aren't hiding where the food comes from, the delivery platforms are hiding something else. In Chicago, this turned into a major legal battle. The city accused DoorDash of using deceptive practices during the pandemic. They charged extra fees that were buried under vague labels like service fees, small order fees, or even a $1.50 Chicago fee that sounded like a government tax but wasn't. Basically, they made it look like the government was charging you and not them. On top of that, they allegedly failed to tell diners that the food prices listed on the app were sometimes higher than what you would pay if you walked into the restaurant itself. The $18 million settlement was a win for the city, but it barely scratched the surface of how messy the whole system really is. But while some people have managed to win lawsuits against the delivery companies, others never even got the chance. The hidden dangers in this industry don't always end in complaints or refunds. Sometimes they end in tragedy. And this is where the stories stop being strange and start becoming deadly. On June 7, 2023, in Los Angeles, 51-year-old Bing Wong was walking along La Cienega Boulevard with his wife and their teenage son. They had landed in the United States only hours earlier, excited to explore the city after a long flight from China. It was supposed to be a quick walk, something simple to stretch their legs after traveling. But just before noon, a black Hyundai came speeding toward them. It jumped the curb without warning, skidded onto the sidewalk, and slammed into the family. The driver was a DoorDash dasher in the middle of a delivery. One moment the sidewalk was safe, and the next, people were screaming for help. Wong died from his injuries. His wife was rushed into emergency surgery where doctors amputated her left leg. Their 19-year-old son suffered several broken bones and the kind of emotional shock no one walks away from clean. He had watched the crash happen in front of him. He saw his father lose his life and his mother lose her leg at the same time. Police said the driver, 36-year-old Vladimir Tischenko, stayed at the scene and declined medical treatment. He was cooperative, but the damage had been done, one resulting from handling a delivery order. In their lawsuit, the Wang family's lawyers said the crash was not just an accident. They argued that the driver had been rushing to complete an order and the company benefited from that rush. They pointed out the pressure the delivery drivers face, the constant clock, the demands to be fast, and the way the system rewards quickness more than caution. Tischenko's driving, they said, was encouraged by the design of the job. One lawyer said it clearly. This family came to the United States to give their son a better life, only to have everything taken from them within hours by a worker speeding for a multi-billion-dollar company. The story hit a nerve because it didn't come from a far-off situation or a rare freak accident, but from a system that millions of people use every day. And when that system pushes drivers to go faster, stay online longer, and hustle harder for just a few more dollars, the line between convenience and danger gets thin. Behind every tap on a screen, there are people, trade-offs, risks, and a long chain that stretches far beyond the bag left at your door. Maybe the real question is no longer how fast our food can arrive, but what it costs to get there.